I was a headhunter on Wall Street, my first career, and I was very, very successful. And I was out living in Hong Kong, running my company's firm out in Hong Kong. And I had a lot of success. I was making a lot of money. I had a beautiful boyfriend at the time, and I was in Bali on a vacation by myself, and I met an enlightened master. And what's really interesting is even though I had all of that success, and I really kind of hit all the things that people told me, like, you will have happiness if you do all of these things. And I got there and I was like, okay, where's, basically where the fuck is my happiness? This is
Right.
this is not what I was promised. And I was miserable, right? I had everything that everyone told me that I should want or have or whatever. And I just didn't understand it. And when I met this enlightened master by accident, of course, and I had this moment where I had been doing some work on like these exercises that he gave me. And one of them was seeing what my life was built on, like, and it was built on so much of like the need of approval, like from my dad and my bosses, and this like wanting to do a good job and like wanting people to validate that. And I'm not alone in that. A lot of people build their lives on just wanting other people's acknowledgement. And the minute that I saw that, it was just like pulling the whole house of cards, it just all came down, and I just couldn't continue. I actually left Bali on a Sunday and I went back to Hong Kong on the Monday. I called my boss in New York and I said, I'm done. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's done with what? And I said, my career. And he's like, you're about to make partner. Like, this was no small thing. I mean, this is like, making partner in a legal firm, right? Like, I mean, this is a big deal. I would have been the first woman partner. I would have been the youngest partner ever. Like, I had worked for a decade, for this, but I couldn't unsee it.
Right.
And so, I had this whole experience, and then it really honestly took years for my life to unravel, and for me to get to a point where I like had no idea who I was, because I just didn't have I had always associated like my identity with my job. Like, I didn't actually know who I was as an adult woman without my job. And so this was a really big beginning of everything. I found another teacher later on that was really important for me, and I know that we're going to talk about it, but in doing pussy work,
Okay.
which is like, well, it's an important piece, because people are like, oh my God, pussy, like, and it's like, yeah, well,
The P word.
the P word, right? And it's like, it's really interesting because even though I had done some of that initial unraveling of my life, things didn't really begin to change until I started doing deep body work, right? And when I say deep body work, for me, that was pussy work, right? It was a stroking practice. And I actually was in a in a school that did a partnered stroking practice. It's where I met my husband, and it was, and some of my really good friends. And this may be really weird for some people, and that's totally okay. But for me, it was so life altering. And it's way beyond sex and orgasm. Like, it's way beyond pleasure. It's really about tapping into your life force energy and having that fully open, and being able to almost like heat up the things that aren't true in your life. So if you can imagine, like, you've got this life force energy that runs through your body that's really like seated in your pussy. And when you really get that on in like from like a, just like if you were going to turn the burner up on the stove, and then you're just boiling your whole life, you're basically boiling off everything that isn't true. You're burning through old trauma. You're letting go of relationships that aren't working, your patterns that aren't working, addictions that aren't working. Like, it just turns it up, and like things just cannot survive that heat. And so it's become a core part of my teachings now too. I changed it to a solo practice for women. That's kind of guided in a meditation. We talked about this a little bit before we came on. It's called Sex Bomb. But it's I teach a lot of things, but ultimately, I teach energetics in the body, and you really can't learn energetics in the body just intellectually. You need to have the experience. Where, I mean, I meet women who are afraid to touch their own bodies.
Mm.
And to me, that is the greatest evil in the world. For a woman to be afraid of her own body is like, wow, how did we arrive here? Right?
Yeah. And why do you think that is? Again, is it
To
because
control
of
people.
what? Yeah. Right.
Because see, the thing is that when you have a civilization that is connected to their sexuality in a way that is rooted and grounded and not necessarily even like hedonistic, or like, I mean, I'm in a monogamous relationship with my husband. It's not like I'm one of these like open relationship going to Jamaica to hedonism and all of this stuff. No, it to me, it's about being connected and rooted and in approval of your sexuality as a matter of wellness, of just being holistically connected to your whole body, right? And we have been programmed that all of this is evil, because when you have people who are connected to their sexuality, it's really hard to control them. You have a much deeper relationship to truth, universal truth. Well, I'm not talking about like, what's in the news today, like facts and fake news and stuff. I'm talking about truth, right? Like that deep clunk, like you just like, no, that's not right, right? That kind of confidence also to hold yourself there comes with being connected to your sexuality. Just doesn't happen otherwise. And so when you have people, like, if you want to take people's power away, you disconnect them from their sexuality. It's
interesting. I never thought about it like that.
oh yeah, I mean, because think about it, it's direct connection to source.
And what source, one might
Well,
ask?
I mean, so I use the word source and God sometimes interchangeably, but like, the problem with the word God a lot of times is that people think of a man, and people think that this is like a figure that is like us, and where source is the energy of everything, all that is.
Yes.
Right. And so it's like, it's stripping the duality out of it and just understanding that it's this all-encompassing energy of all that is. It is the